If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment and tell us where in the world you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories reach. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a twist. Tomorrow's story is one you won't want to miss. It's filled with even more drama, emotion, and surprises. Thank you for being here and being part of this journey. See you in the next chapter, same time tomorrow. I had spent 10 years loving Brandon. 10 years of waiting patiently, believing that when the time was right, he would finally make me his bride. At 28, I thought I was just weeks away from the happiest day of my life, our wedding. The venue was booked, the dress was chosen, and the invitations had already been sent. But as the days counted down, something changed. Brandon, now a 33-year-old tech CEO, became distant. It wasn't the usual wedding stress. It wasn't cold feet. It was Brielle, his new, young, stunning secretary who seemed to be everywhere he was. She wasn't just part of his work life anymore. She had seeped into his personal world too, always by his side, always smiling. He started coming home late. Meetings ran over. Texts went unanswered. Conversations became shorter. I chalked it up to work at first, until one day I came home to something unexpected. Our house was covered in roses, red, fresh, and countless, 999 roses to be exact. It should have been romantic. But Brandon wasn't there waiting for me with a camera or a glass of champagne. He wasn't planning to propose all over again. No, those flowers weren't for me. They were for Brielle. It was her birthday. That detail alone crushed me. But it wasn't the worst part. Brandon had forgotten one very important thing. I'm severely allergic to flowers. Within minutes of walking through the door, my skin was itching, my throat closing, and I was gasping for air. I collapsed before I could even reach my phone. When I woke up, I was in the emergency room, disoriented, wearing an oxygen mask and trembling with a mixture of pain and betrayal. Brandon wasn't there. He hadn't even called. Tears blurred my vision as I reached for my phone. I didn't call Brandon. I didn't call a friend. I called my mom. "Mom," I whispered, my voice barely a breath. "I want to change my groom." There was a long silence. Then she said, with a voice full of relief, "Sweetheart, I've been waiting so long to hear you say that." That moment changed everything. The wedding was still a month away, but my heart was already gone. I was done waiting, done hoping, done hurting. Lying in that hospital bed, I realized the truth I'd been too afraid to admit. The man I loved didn't even remember the one thing that could kill me. That's not love. That's neglect. And no amount of flowers or apologies could ever make up for that. So I made a decision. I would still get married, but not to Brandon. The hospital room was quiet, except for the steady beep of the monitor next to me and the faint hum of fluorescent lights overhead. I lay there, staring at the white ceiling, still trying to process what had just happened. Brandon had nearly killed me with flowers meant for another woman, and he still hadn't shown up. I picked up my phone with shaky hands and opened my Instagram. My fingers hovered over the screen, heart racing. Then I typed the unthinkable. Wedding's still happening, but I'm replacing the groom. Who's in? I hit post. For a moment, I just stared at the glowing screen, unsure if I'd finally lost my mind or just found my freedom. Notifications started flooding in. Comments ranged from laughing emojis to shocked responses. Is this a joke? Girl, what? Please tell me this is just wedding stress. But one comment made my breath catch. Do I qualify? It was from Caleb. I hadn't spoken to him in almost 5 years. Caleb, my childhood best friend, my partner in crime, my high school hallway protector. We used to ride bikes until sunset and prank the neighbors with silly string. After college, we drifted apart. Then Brandon came into my life, and somewhere along the way, Caleb faded into the background. But here he was, suddenly front and center again. I hesitated. staring at his comment. Then I replied, "Yes, come find me." 2 hours later, he was standing in my hospital room, tall, tan from the Texas sun, and looking nothing like the scrappy teenager I remembered. Caleb had grown into himself, confident, calm, and focused. "I can't believe I let you disappear like that," he said quietly, pulling up a chair. "But I'm here now, and I'm not letting you go again." I didn't cry. Not then. I think I'd used up all my tears in the ER, but something in me cracked open. Some old version of myself I thought had died in Brandon's shadow. "What are we even doing?" I whispered. "We're getting married," Caleb said, without blinking. "And you're going to wear the dress of your dreams, not the one Brandon liked best. I already called a designer in LA. 10 dresses are being delivered to your mum's house tomorrow. You're trying them all on." I blinked. "You're serious?" "As a heart attack," he smirked. "And you deserve way better than $9.99 roses meant for someone else." My heart skipped. For the first time in months, maybe even years, I felt wanted, not just tolerated. I felt chosen. As I packed up to leave the hospital the next day, I made one last stop, Brandon's house. I gathered every gift, every photo, every memory, and left the key on the table. No note, no explanation. He would see the empty closet, and no, the wedding was still on, but this time the groom truly chose me first. I thought walking away from Brandon would bring peace. That once I left his house and returned the key, the silence would feel like closure. But I underestimated him. Just 2 days after I was discharged from the hospital, while Caleb and I were selecting wedding venues in Napa, Brandon showed up, uninvited, at my mum's house. He didn't even knock. He just barged in like he still had a place in my life, holding a half-burned shoebox in his arms. Inside were the old love letters he'd written me over the years, the ones I almost set on fire before he stomped them out with his bare foot. His shoes were still singed. "Haley," he said breathlessly, "please don't marry him." I froze. My mum stepped in front of me protectively, but Brandon ignored her. "I made a mistake," he said, voice shaking. "I was trying to make Brielle feel included. She's just my employee. That birthday thing, it meant nothing. I didn't know the flowers would hurt you. I forgot. But I'm here now, okay? I'm choosing you." I looked at him, eyes cold. "You remembered her birthday, Brandon. You filled the house with roses for her. You didn't even remember I was allergic. And you didn't come to the hospital." I almost died. He took a step closer. I know I messed up, but I can fix this." "No, you can't," I whispered, "because it wasn't just one mistake. It was years of me putting you first while you put me second, or third. I'm not doing that anymore." Before he could say another word, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Caleb. "Just pulled up, ready when you are, future bride." Brandon glanced at the screen and something in him snapped. His calm exterior cracked, revealing a desperate man unraveling at the seams. "You can't seriously marry him," he spat. "You barely reconnected. I've loved you for a decade." "And treated me like an afterthought for half of it," I replied sharply. "Love isn't enough. Not when there's no respect," he didn't reply. Just stood there, breathing hard as I walked past him, picked up my bag and stepped outside, straight into Caleb's arms. "Everything okay?" Caleb asked, eyes scanning my face. I said, glancing over my shoulder. Brandon was still, at the doorway, watching us. He looked lost, furious, crushed, but all I felt was relief. That night, he started flooding my phone with messages, apologies, promises, begging me not to go through with the wedding. When I didn't respond, he took it to another level, posting a picture of us from 5 years ago as his profile. Photo captioned, "The one that got away." But I wasn't the one who got away. I was the one who chose to leave. And Brandon, he was the one who let me go. For the next few days, the messages didn't stop. Brandon called non-stop. Texts poured in like rain, old photos, voice notes, even a video of him standing outside the restaurant where we had our first date, begging me to meet him just one last time. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Not because I didn't feel anything, but because I finally felt everything I had ignored for years. Every missed birthday, every cold shoulder, every time I made excuses for him while he prioritized anything or anyone else. It all came crashing down now that I was standing beside someone who actually saw me. Caleb never asked me to forget the past. He just promised to build a better future, and he meant it. He was up early every morning, working with planners, choosing colors, tasting cakes with me, even flying my favorite cousin in from Chicago as a surprise. Every detail, every choice, he made sure I felt seen, heard, and loved. It was so simple, and yet so new. Love that didn't require me to beg for attention. Then, one evening, as we stood outside the boutique after my final wedding dress fitting, Caleb turned to me, holding my hand. "Are you okay?" he asked. "You've been quiet today." I took a deep breath. I guess I'm just waiting for the past to come knocking again. He nodded, understanding. "If it does, I'll be the one answering the door." I smiled, tears welling up. Not because I was sad, but because I finally knew what peace felt like. That night, Brandon made one last attempt. My best friend called me, voice shaking. Haley. He showed up at the office, asking everyone if they knew who the new groom was. Said he'd never forgive himself. He's falling apart. I hung up in silence. That wasn't my problem anymore. The next morning, I told Caleb everything. The phone calls, the messages, the public posts, even the breakdown at my old workplace. He didn't flinch, didn't get jealous, didn't question my heart. He simply said, "Thank you for telling me. I've got you, and I'm not going anywhere." In that moment, I realized I had never felt this safe in love before. So I took control. I blocked Brandon on everything, changed my number, and with Caleb's help, I made sure he couldn't show up at the wedding without getting stopped at the gate. The past had tried to claw its way back in, but I wasn't opening that door again. Because this time, I was walking down the aisle, not out of guilt, not out of habit, not out of fear of starting over, but because someone finally showed me what it means to be loved without conditions. And I was ready. Ready to let go of regret. Ready to say goodbye to pain. Ready to say "I do" to the one who chose me first and never made me question if I was enough. The morning of the wedding, everything felt surreal. Sunlight spilled through the windows of the bridal suite, catching the crystals on my veil. My mum buzzed around, fixing details, while Caleb's sister helped me into my gown. I should have been nervous, anxious, shaky, but I wasn't. I felt calm, solid, ready. Because this wasn't a rushed decision. This wasn't running from one man into the arms of another. This was me finally choosing myself, and a love that didn't come with conditions or confusion. Guests were arriving. The music started. I peeked out from behind the curtains and saw Caleb waiting at the end of the aisle, standing tall in his custom navy suit, smiling like the sun had never looked brighter. But peace doesn't always come easy. Just as I stepped out to walk down the aisle, a shout erupted at the front gate. Loud, desperate, familiar. "Haley, you can't marry him! I don't agree to this wedding!" Gasps rippled through the crowd. I froze. It was Brandon. He had somehow slipped past security and was now pushing through rows of guests, his suit wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. Security rushed after him, trying to pull him back, but he dropped to his knees right there on the white carpet, arms outstretched. "Please," he begged, "don't do this. I remember everything now. Your allergy, your favorite food, the song you used to hum when you couldn't sleep. I fired Brielle. I cut her off completely. She meant nothing. You're the one I love." Everyone was staring at me, but I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. Before I could respond, Caleb stepped forward, calm and composed. "Who says she doesn't love me?" he said, then turned to me and kissed me. Right there. in front of Brandon, in front of everyone. That kiss wasn't just about love. It was a line drawn in stone, and I kissed him back without hesitation. Brandon's expression collapsed. His voice cracked. "I wrote a new letter," he whispered, reaching into his coat pocket. "Just like I promised, one every day until you forgive me. I even made Brielle record an apology. She begged for your forgiveness." He held up his phone, showing a video of her on her knees, crying, slapping herself, calling herself a fool. It should have moved me. It should have made me feel something. But I felt nothing, because I finally understood. Brandon was sorry he lost control, not sorry for how he treated me, and that was the difference. Caleb turned to the crowd and said firmly, "The wedding continues." Brandon, still crying, was escorted away by security, shouting my name until the doors shut behind him. I turned back to Caleb, hand trembling only from emotion, not fear. We exchanged vows, rings, and one final promise: to build a life where love wasn't earned through suffering. As we walked out together, hand in hand, past the lake where Brandon would later try to rewrite his ending, I didn't look back, because I'd already chosen my forever. If this story moved you in any way, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Was there a moment that hit home? A part that made you feel seen, empowered, or even heartbroken? Drop your reactions, reflections, or even your own stories in the comments below. We read every single one. Your words help us create a space where emotions are real, and every voice matters. And tell us, where are you watching from? It always warms our hearts to see this community growing across cities, countries, and continents. Whether you're curled up at home or listening on the go, you're part of something bigger, a shared journey through these unforgettable tales. Also, if you think someone you care about needs to hear this story, don't hesitate to share it. Stories heal, stories connect, and if you're new here, be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss tomorrow's episode. Trust us, it's one you don't want to miss. More twists, more truth, more heart. Thank you for being here. Now go ahead, light up that comment section. We can't wait to hear from you.